everyone. Thanks for joining us for Binance Blockchain Week. I'm Josh, and I'm leading product at Solare. Happy to be here, and I'll be sharing a bit more about Solare, our approach to this product, and what we're doing to build the next future of finance. So sharing a bit more about Solare. So if, in case you haven't heard of us, we used to be doing restaking on Solana. And where we took a lot of the lessons from it was how do we scale Solana, at least landing transactions, making it more reliable, throughput, right? So that's where we landed on building the first hardware-accelerated blockchain in the world. So that's it's going to be built on the SVM, infinitely scaled. And what do we mean by the SVM? This is Solana. So we're using a Solana virtual machine, and we're repurposing a lot of the technology towards that. So let me just start with why, right? Why are we focusing on scalability and UX, and how do these interplay with each other? So I think in terms of software scaling, we have been focusing on scaling blockchains on the software side for over the past few years. And I think that has kind of plateaued off. We've seen performance gains kind of level off. And that's where we feel that the next quantum leap forward in scalability comes in on the hardware side. So we use a lot of techniques and specific technologies from the AI side. They have been using InfiniBand, all sorts of dedicated hardware for GPUs and distributed training. So a lot of these technologies actually share what we can be used on crypto, because we need to make things go fast. Throughput is an issue, right? So it boils down to two main things: throughput bottlenecks. I mean, we have fast chains now, but when we're thinking about bringing the entire world on-chain, that is a level of throughput that we have not been prepared for. We're talking about millions of transactions per second. If you just look at how many transactions are landing on the NASDAQ, even on Web2, Netflix, things like that, right? And then secondly, finalization. There's always a trade-off between transaction guarantees and latency. So you want things that can basically guarantee, right? Once you put out a transaction, you don't want it to roll back. And then latency, you want things to be confirmed fast. So that's where we focus on performance across the entire stack. So we're building an L1. I'll share a bit more about it in the future. But right now, we have the L1 on the top of the layer. Everything's built on top of that. We have staking infrastructure, our origins on Solana. We have one of the best performing validators on Solana. We have US T-bills and a yield-bearing stablecoin, and that plays into our entire ecosystem. So all of our ecosystem projects don't have to build each of these layers on their own. They can come in, they can hook into our card, they can hook into our stablecoin, they can hook into our staking yield, all of that's done. Lending and borrowing, they can just tap into that, right? And all of these products all play with each other. It's all hardware accelerated. The UI, UX across all of these are meant to be unified, right? And now just sharing a bit more about the chain. So the chain, we're calling it the InfiniSVM, mainly because we use a lot of InfiniBand and NVIDIA's chips. And that's where we are currently heading into our mainnet alpha. So that is a private mainnet for builders who are building on our chain. And some of the stats that we have achieved in production so far. Number one, 300,000 transactions per second. And these are not like single transfer transactions. These are messy transactions. Lending, borrowing, swaps, anything. We just threw a bunch of really messy transactions at it, and is able to sustain this high TPS even with that considered, right? And people have been asking me, you're an L1, what's the gas fee going to be? Is it going to be your token? How's it going to be, right? So we're actually going to be using Sol. It's going to be super low fees. And the reason why we're using Sol is, number one, for UI UX. It's going to be a lot easier, right, for user onboarding when you're using Solana. And secondly, we were a native Solana team. We know that users love Solana, and it is actually, we want to stay aligned with the ecosystem, right? So sharing a bit more about the benchmarks and things that we've been focusing on, and how it's been handling things in production. We have achieved around 300,000. We're going to aim for 1 million before the mainnet. And then network bandwidth, we're going to keep increasing it. Confirmation times, we're going to keep lowering it, of course. And as more updates and stuff come in with Solana, we'll kind of match those benchmarks and push even harder on the hardware before we kind of go live. And all of this is available on explorer.solare.org for you guys to check out more. So earlier this year, we launched Solare XL, and this is a part of the ecosystem initiative to back founders who are going to be building on our chain. And with this new design space, 300,000 transactions per second, real-time, instant confirmation, right? What can we build? And that's where we open up the XL program. And this is the first engineering-led, founder-obsessed program, right? Ship weekly. we back what you ship. And that's going to be culminating in demo day at Solana Breakpoint, just about next week. It's a really small cohort, high bar. What we mean by residency energy remote speed is imagine if everyone's building in the same house and they're building super fast, right? We're going back to the Silicon Valley days. Our team's actually all based in Palo Alto. And we're going to be bringing that culture onto our chain as well. So this is just sharing some of the projects that are on our chain and some of the new kind of like design spaces we're looking at. The first one is Spout. So Spout is one of our ecosystem projects. They'll be building on Solana as well as on our chain. They're taking US investment-grade assets like bonds, equities, and allow for secure yield-bearing like lending against that. And part of the reason why is, number one, unlocking that liquidity. A lot of people in Web2 have stocks, right? And then that could be as part of their portfolio, could be part of their equity options and things like that. And what we're looking for is how do you make that easier to kind of access on-chain. Number two, so this is Bufftrade. Bufftrade met them in Korea, really strong team. And they're building a launchpad for trading strategies, all powered by AI. And the infrastructure is accelerated, right? And why do we focus on AI? I think AI is a mixed bag, but in terms of throughput, what would consume that much block space? 1 million transactions per second. I think part of it is if you have a AI agent, 10 AI agents for each user, and these 10 AI agents are talking to another 10, that increases exponentially. And if we are thinking about how the world's going to look like 10, 20 years down the road, I do think it's going to be a picture of this on a much larger scale, and we need the throughput to handle that. Lastly, we have DocsX. Docs Exchange, they are going to be a full-stack trading arena on Solana, one of the bedrocks for asset creation all the way up to spot markets, advanced execution. And they would be the fastest on-chain club DAX. This is on spot, so people can trade assets, and it's going to be lightning fast. And this is just like a peek into the projects that we'll be incubating. We're looking primarily at 4 main kind of areas. Number one, trading use cases. That's, I think, one of the product market fit that we have seen that needs high throughput. And right now, we have seen fast chains, but if we go forward like 100, 200 times what we're looking at right now, I think the UX would be phenomenal with these kinds of throughputs and latency, right? And then secondly, payments. As we bring the world into payments, right, there is going to be, we're looking at millions and millions of payments. I don't think there are many kind of like platforms right now that can handle the kind of payload that we're looking for. And hopefully we can kind of like build our systems to kind of mirror that. And of course, AI I mentioned, and then consumer. If we're looking at Netflix, Shopify, the number of reads and writes that they do from the database, it's insane. I don't think we do need to kind of, even right now, our level of throughput, we need to expand that before we can handle the consumer kind of use cases that we're looking for. And also confirmation. If a transaction goes out, you don't want to have a chance of that transaction dropping, right? That's bad for UX. Okay, and right now I'll be sharing a bit more about our ecosystem fund. So we are going to expand this and focus heavily on backing exceptional founders across the stack, right? People who are ambitious founders who are building, like I mentioned, real time, people who are looking to build fast apps, people who are looking to build for consumers, for the end user, revenue-driven, people who are going to be focusing back down to the foundations and the fundamentals of what it is to run a product and to run a business. Talking to the end users, and of course, we're going to help with marketing, go-to-market, engineering side as well. Our team will be in direct contact with you guys. And this is an open call for all builders who are looking to build alongside really strong founders as well. To join us in this, we'll be allocating 35 million it's a part of the ecosystem fund to invest in projects that are targeting those high-frequency use cases. And just a bit more on the vision of why we're doing this. I think as we kind of expand the kind of throughput, we have not even begun to scratch the surface of what is possible, right? I think when it came to crypto, we saw some level of product market fit with trading strategies, with things like that. And we're about to see a whole new generation of applications that would be living on-chain natively, completely native. And we're really excited to kind of see that. And I think that's where we need to put the best minds on this, right? We deeply believe that innovation can happen anywhere around the world. We are based in Silicon Valley, and we're trying to basically replicate this throughout the entire world. You can have innovation happen whether you're in Tokyo, you're in Singapore, you're in Dubai. And that's where this ecosystem fund is going to be part of that vision. But overall, that's it from Solare. We're going to build the future in real time, this time for real, not any fake metrics. We want to make sure that this thing actually works. Thank you.